Welcome to Financial Issues with Shana Burt, where we join reality with truth, helping you to make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now, here's your host, Shana Burt.
Good Friday morning. It is May 17th, 2024. It's Rapid Fire Friday here at Financial Issues, and our phone lines are open. Looks like we've got a call already coming in.
Yeah, we sure do.
You want to get in that queue? It's 610-363-1110 is the phone number. Let's get started right away. We've got a lot to get to here in the first segment, so we can get to these calls and social media. If you're connecting with us, if you're a social media kind of person, we're on all of them: Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Truth Social, Instagram. I feel like I'm missing one.
You're on Twitter also, I think.
Twitter,
yeah,
yes,
Twitter,
X.
Yeah. X.
So connect with us there. Like,
and
share, subscribe. Do all those good things that get those algorithms going and get us in front of more like-minded people. Our stewardship verse today is Galatians 6:7. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. We'll come back to that a little later in the show. But let's get to some financial news, because at Financial Issues, we help you to stay in the know about the financial issues of the day. We help keep you updated about what's happening in the economy and the markets, and help you understand how that impacts your own personal financial issues. We had a good bit of economic data that came out this week, the week that is ending May 17th of 2024. We got inflation data. We got PPI and CPI that came in pretty well in line with expectations. The headline number for CPI, that is consumer inflation, came in slightly less than what was expected. Core CPI came in as expected. So as of April 2024, headline CPI sits at 3.4% year over year. That means that the prices that consumers pay for the things that they spend money on has increased 3.4% higher than it was just last year. Now, that is down a tick from where it sat in March. It sat at 3.5%. Core CPI, on the other hand, came in at 3.6%, a little bit higher than the headline number due to some things like rents and services inflation. It is down from 3.8% where it was in just last month in March of 2024. So services inflation is what is making inflation a bit sticky. Services inflation includes things like car insurance, housing inflation, things like that. It is up 5.3% year over year, well over the 3.5% overall inflation that we see. Goods prices on the other, let me back up and say that housing inflation is up in the mid 5% range, 5.4 to 5.8%, just depending on what metric that you're looking at. So housing is costing more. That is a big chunk of most consumers' monthly budgets. Car insurance, 22.6% higher than it was year over year. Going into the goods number, we've seen a bit of deflation in goods prices. Year over year, the prices that we pay for goods is down 1.3%. So that's helped to buffer that services inflation and help us to, at least for the time being, continue the disinflation, not deflation. We're not seeing prices go down overall, just we're seeing the rate of increase slow. And consumers don't see inflation dropping into the Fed's 2% target zone anytime soon. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York reported this week that the U.S. consumers' inflation expectations for the year ahead increased to 3.3%, so slightly down from where we sit right now. This is the highest number for consumer expectations since November, and the year ahead price expectations rose across the board, namely for gas, for food, for medical care, college education, and rent. Also, hopes are still not very high for potential homeowners. The median home price growth expectations increased to 3.3%. That's the highest since July of 2022, after remaining unchanged at 3% for 7 consecutive months. So consumers don't see inflation with that 2% handle for several years. Inflation expectations at the 3-year horizon decreased to 2.8% from 2.9, still almost a percentage point above where the Fed wants it to be. That's where consumers see it being in the next year. And it also increased to 2.8% from 2.6 for the 5-year horizon. So consumers don't see inflation hitting the Fed's 2% zone anytime soon. Retail sales data also came out this week and was pretty soft. In the first 4 months of 2024, headline retail sales are up just 0.3%, and that is running below the rate of inflation, which in the first 4 months of the year is up 1.4%. You get kind of a scary number if you annualize that first. You get inflation up over 4% if you annualize that first 4-month inflation at 1.4%. Initial claims data, that's unemployment data that comes out every week. The weekly report yesterday was the second in a row of claims looking to break out of that low 200,000 range that we've been in since the end of last year. For the week ending May 11th, initial claims were 222,000, 2,000 more than expected, but less than the 232 that we saw the week before. Some of last week's increase can be blamed on New York workers who get to claim unemployment benefits while they're on spring break. So that's a very temporary thing and causes a little blip in the data. The 4-week moving average, though, did tick up to 218,000 from 215,000, and that's the most since November of 2023. The 4-week moving average gives us an idea of where claims are headed because it smooths out that week-to-week volatility. Continuing claims rose to 1.794 million from 1.781, remaining near the highest since November 2021. So that continuing claims number is not subject to that quirk that we saw that we're blaming on the New York data. In the mortgage markets, it is keeping folks, mortgage rates are keeping folks in their golden handcuffs. Last week we saw rates at averaging 7.02% for the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, where it sits now, but it went from right around 3% over the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
This is creating the lowest turnover in the last 30 years. It's also impacting home improvement retailer sales because they're saying that people are not spending the money that they would normally spend when they're getting their home ready to put on the market. So that is impacting their sales. We do have a very mixed economy. It could still be described as good, though. The markets are reacting. All 3 stock indices ended in negative territory yesterday, slightly. However, the Dow hit a new milestone yesterday. The Dow rose as high as 40,051 on Thursday morning before pulling back to close under 40,000. But this is the first time that the Dow has ever hit 40,000. It soared 40% from its low in September of 2022 and more than doubled since the spring of 2020 when our economy was virtually shut down because of COVID. It was a very scary time. If you got out and never got back in, you missed a good run in the market. The Dow is up 5.8 this year, setting 18 record closes along the way, and the broader S&P and tech-heavy NASDAQ composite are both up 11%. Next week, we're going to see the minutes from the FOMC meeting released and durable goods orders, and we'll make sure that we keep you informed about that. But now that you're in the know about the recent and upcoming financial issues, we hope that you will learn more about how we can help you integrate those issues into your own stewardship. Find out more about our ministry and defunding darkness with our BRI.
The miracle of carrying a child creates a unique bond between a mother and her unborn baby. She feels the baby's movements and responds to their needs even before birth. Help create that bond between an abortion-minded mother and her unborn child by giving the gift of life through Preborn. During the month of May, you can bless your mom for Mother's Day by giving to Preborn on your mother's behalf. For $28, you can sponsor an ultrasound scan that will enable an abortion-minded woman to hear the heartbeat of her baby. 90% of the time, that sound will change a woman's mind and cause her to keep their baby. Give the gift of life to the woman that gave you life by sponsoring an ultrasound. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give. That's preborn.com/FISM. You can help an abortion-minded mother receive discipleship, encouragement, and the strength needed to have her baby.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay or to go, to remain the same or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common: the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
Welcome back to Rapid Fire Friday here at Financial Issues. We're so glad that you tuned in today. We wanted to remind you that we have a petition, a way that you can get actively involved, whether you're a partner or just a casual listener. If biblically responsible investing has struck a chord with you and you have a conviction for it and you want to make a difference, you can sign a petition that we have going. We sent out a sell alert to our partners to sign AMD stock. It's a technology stock because they are failing screens for lifestyle, which means that they're actively involved in promoting the LGBTQ agenda and for abortion. So you can find out the details of that. I think Seth is going to drop that link into social media. It's super easy to sign. You just have to give an email address. You do have to put your address in there just to verify that you are a real person and we're not just sending a bunch of names like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and things like that. But your information's not going to be sent with the petition, just your name. So we would encourage you to sign that. We're going to leave it open until midnight tonight. That is May the 17th of 2024. So go on over to financialissues.org and sign that petition. Or if you're on social media, just click on the link that Seth is dropping in there.
Yep. It's on the website right now, folks. And guys in the control room, if you could get that on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble as well, that'd be great. Everybody who's watching can see that. That's good stuff. You know, Shana, speaking of lifestyle failures, I feel like it'd be a great teachable moment today for us to kind of get caught up on what's been going on with Target. You know, we talked about them a lot last year as we're approaching this month that is the month of June, but it's been hijacked by the left as Pride Month. But it is just a month that God created for his glory.
We would do well to remember what the Lord says about pride.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Pride goes before destruction, and it's something that he hates.
Yes.
I saw a really good article here from the Washington Stand, that's FRC's news outlet, titled "Target Retreats from LGBT Merch After a Year-Long Profit Bloodbath." Target has been taking a hit, Shana, because of what they did. And I think this is a great thing. I think you'd agree with me. Our listeners would as well. Obviously, what we're seeing is BRI is not just a pipe dream like the Fed's 2% interest rate goal. It actually works. It's not a marketing ploy. And so my first question for you is, what does this headline tell us about the effectiveness of investing with our values and specifically with the values of the biblical worldview?
Yeah. So let's take a step back and remember what happened. We talked about this at length last summer in the midst of Pride Month, which Target started early. They started in May.
Yep.
And, Target is really right now being forced to do, or over the last years, an about face when their bottom line is hit. So let's get a little refresher of what happened. Target started in May of last year. They started putting these grotesque displays of perversion front and center in all of their stores, right there, right in your face as you walk in, full of tuck-friendly swimsuits, binders, baby clothing, and there were some items from a line of clothes designed by Satan himself. Well, maybe not by Satan, but at least by one of his disciples who claims to be a member of the Church of Satan, but really doesn't believe that Satan exists.
That's right. Which is, I feel like it's exactly what Satan wants, right?
It is.
It's crazy.
It is.
Anyway.
So one of the, and this was kind of from the CEO of Target's remarks, they only sold 3 items from his line, this self-proclaimed Satanist. One of them was a sweatshirt featuring an image of a serpent wrapped around a winged staff, a typical symbol of the medical community, along with a slogan that says, "Cure transphobia, not trans people." Another was a messenger bag with a UFO image and the phrase, "Too queer for here." And the third was a tote bag with images of planets and the line, "We belong everywhere."
Good grief. Shana, I have a theory that aliens are just demons, but anyway, that's a whole
I agree with you.
That's a whole nother show topic, perhaps.
Yeah. And, these items were the least extreme of this particular designer's work. He also has shirts that weren't sold at Target, but that say Satan respects pronouns and other really horrific things like that depict decapitating people who don't agree with the LGBT agenda and things like that. Well, Target once bragged that their transgender line of merchandise was, quote, great for their brand. And the CEO, Brian Cornell, who, Dan had a long history of criticizing, and I agree with him. But he once lauded that the store's chest binders and tucking swimsuits for kids were considered progress, quote unquote progress. Well, Target executives have been forced to admit in their earnings calls in the last year that the Target boycott contributed to lower overall sales. Target's chief growth officer told analysts in August, quote, "The reaction is a signal for us to pause, adapt, and learn so that our future approach to these moments balances celebration, inclusivity, and broad-based appeal." So let's take a look at what happened to Target's stock price in the last 2 years. I think we've got a graphic to throw up there on the screen. So this chart goes back 2 years. We see that in May of 2022, the stock price dropped from the high at the time of $215 a share to around $142. By February of 2023, the stock recovers to 180, then takes another dip. While Target now sits at around $160 a share, just about where it was before the extreme rainbow radicals started their early celebration of Pride Month last year. So it's taken a whole year for Target stock to recover from what it did last year. So it's I don't know, maybe a little surprising that they actually picked up on that and are going to do something about it. But, Target would really be wise to disengage from the culture war and just sell stuff, do a good job at selling stuff.
Yeah, Shana, you're exactly right. And it's not a huge ask. I mean, is it so much to ask for companies to do what they're supposed to do? It's like asking the sun to rise in the morning. Like
exactly.
Companies are supposed to sell stuff. And Shana, it would be ideal if companies started openly upholding the biblical values in their investing. That'd be great. That's probably not going to happen. So we'll settle for them just focusing on the bottom line, making good products, keeping virtue signaling out of it, et cetera. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, this is not repentance on Target's part. I think that they still are very outspoken that they support the LGBTQ agenda. They're just not going to put it in people's faces, which I'm appreciative of that. I don't shop at Target anyway, but I haven't in a long time since AFR had their boycott years ago over the same-sex bathrooms, and it's just, I don't want to see it. It infuriates me, and I don't want my kids thinking that this is normal. We have to teach our children what the Bible says about gender, about sexuality, about morality, because it will not go good for them if they buy into this lie. So, it's just not good business practice for Target, even if they're calling this a marketing strategy. Depending on what study you look at, 4 to 8% of the population is LGBTQ. So do we want to really gear our whole marketing strategy, if we're a retailer, to 4 to 8% of the population, especially when that probably means alienating the biggest part of your consumer base?
Yeah.
Not good business.
Not a great move at all. Not a great move at all. Now, you mentioned the 4.8%, Shana. That's a small number, but as we've seen in the last couple of years, that small group of people has a really loud voice and a lot of clout over the U.S. government, over the media, over the medical field, all this stuff. What kind of backlash can we expect to see from this other side that is truthfully very small, but has a really loud, sometimes annoying voice?
Yeah, this is a spiritual battle.
Yeah.
It's not a physical battle.
Yeah.
And so we can expect those voices to get louder and louder, and it's already happening. The president of the Human Rights Campaign said that Cornell, that's the CEO of Target, that their move was a disappointing betrayal of their progressive values. They said, quote, "Pride merchandise means something. LGBTQ plus people are in every zip code in this country, and we aren't going anywhere." So we can expect to see that backlash.
Yeah, for sure. Now, maybe from the other side, Shana, is this just the beginning, do you think? Do you think other companies will learn from Target, Bud Light as well? Speaking of backlash, we obviously saw Dylan Mulvaney come out and basically come after Bud Light after they kind of turned course also. Could we see some other companies perhaps realizing this isn't such a good idea? Maybe we need to change course and just, focus on making good widgets if we're a widget factory.
Yeah. Well, if they have any business smarts, they will.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that we screen out these companies, because we don't want to deploy our money into the kingdom of darkness. We don't want to fund darkness. But, it's also a losing business proposition. If you're looking at it, first we look at it from a spiritual perspective, but if you're looking at it from a secular perspective, it doesn't make good business sense either. The bottom lines of companies will be relieved a little when they scrap the costly DEI and ESG programs. I saw some research by Forbes that said that companies in the U.S. spend around $8 billion a year on their DEI efforts. And that's because of these very, very squeaky and annoying wheels that come after these corporations and really threaten them into pronouncing support for these movements.
Shana, some people might say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm just one person. We're not going to win this fight anyway. How would you encourage BRI investors to think differently about this? You're only one person, but your voice matters. What would you say?
Well, for those that think that their voices don't matter, I would ask the question, matter to who?
Yeah.
We should be performing for an audience of one, and that is for the Lord. So maybe it won't make a hill of beans to Target if you don't shop there, but it will matter to the Lord on the day that you stand before him and answer stewardship questions about where you deployed his resources that you were trusted to manage. So you might be able to say that you didn't bury your capital and that you invested in companies because they offered great rates of return, and then you turn around and gave that money. But is it going to be, will you be okay in saying that you deployed that capital into a company that boldly and proudly advocated for lifestyles contrary to God's direction for gender and sexuality? So
well said.
I would say that you want to be on the right side of that, because there's reward that comes with it.
Amen.
Well, folks, if you listen to the short version of the show, then we bid you a farewell and a great weekend this weekend. We hope you have a wonderful day in worship. For the rest of you, stick around. We're going to come back with more financial issues, including getting to our phone lines, 610-363-1110. 10. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with more financial issues after we take this break.
Are you tired of the chaos? There are a lot of things that make noise, but only a few that truly matter. As a parent, I want to leave something that will last for a long time.
Invest $300 a month increase on slowly by the time you retire.
Not just an inheritance of money, but a legacy of godly values.
Here at Financial Issues, we want to help you grow your money, but our main goal is to help you honor God with the money that He's given you.
Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
For $28, you can sponsor an ultrasound scan that will enable an abortion-minded woman to hear the heartbeat of her baby. 90% of the time when this happens, that sound will change a woman's mind and cause her to keep the baby. And guess what? An anonymous donor is matching your gift. For every 200 scans underwritten, an ultrasound machine will be purchased and placed in a life-saving preborn clinic. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today. That's preborn.com/FISM.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
Throughout the month of May, FISM is partnering with Preborn to fund the light by providing 100 ultrasound machines to pro-life centers around the country. Now, how can you contribute? Well, for as little as $28, you can provide an ultrasound scan to an abortion-minded woman in crisis. And when that woman hears the heartbeat of her baby, she will choose life. Get this, 90% of the time. It's remarkable. And guess what? With the help of a donor match, for every 200 scans donated, that's for a net value of $5,600, Preborn Ministries will be gifted an ultrasound machine to place at a clinic in need. Each machine has the potential to impact hundreds of thousands of mothers' choices. Preborn also offers additional support to mothers in need and presents the gospel to every mother who comes into their clinics, knowing that salvation is the greatest gift that can be given to a mother and her child. So go to preborn.com/FISM to give. That's preborn.com/FISM.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues on this Rapid Fire Friday. We hope that our discussion about biblically responsible investing, about the things that are going on with Target as we brace for the month of June and all of the things that are going to be thrown in our face, how the rainbow is going to be hijacked and twisted to represent something that it doesn't. We as Christians know that the rainbow is our symbol of God's promises to us and not a symbol representing the rebellion of humanity against how God made us and what He made us to do, the purposes that He made us for.
Amen. Jen, I actually heard one time someone say the rainbow, the position of it is it's actually a bow, as in like a bow and arrow. It's a weapon of war that is not strung. So God is no longer firing that weapon at humanity like He did when He poured out His wrath during the age of Noah. He's not doing that anymore. He promised not to do that. It's a promise of God's grace. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I still love the rainbow.
I do too.
Maybe we'll wear the rainbow for in the month of June, but for the right reason.
Right, for the right reasons. Yep.
So, that's why this ministry exists. That's why we do biblically responsible investing, because we can see what's happening in corporate America. Biblically responsible investing has been around for a long time. In fact, the Timothy Plan is the pioneer in biblically responsible investing. They have a family of mutual funds. They're celebrating their 30th year this year, and we hope that you will tune in to the show on Monday, because we're going to have Brian Mumbert with us with the Timothy Plan to talk to us about biblically responsible investing. And I think we're going to be talking, I'll be interviewing him. I think we're going to be talking a lot about the upcoming month, Pride Month, and the screens. We'll dig a little bit deeper into the screens of biblically responsible investing, and that'll give you a better idea, hopefully strengthen your conviction to do biblically responsible investing, because, as a shareholder, you have very little, if any, input on the decisions that management makes about the products it sells, the campaigns it runs, its philanthropy, where they deploy money behind getting certain legislation passed that is very anti-marriage and anti-family. But you can control whether or not you keep the company or buy it in the first place. So the good news is that there are plenty of companies that are out there that are focusing on just operating in excellence rather than using their boardroom to advance their social agendas. So tune in Monday for Brian Mumbert. You're not going to want to miss that.
Yeah. Shanna, I had heard you say this before. Tell me if I'm remembering this incorrectly. Have you said before that it's 90% of companies, publicly traded companies, would screen clean? Is that right?
Yeah, roughly 90%.
Yeah. That's awesome. So there's still plenty of options out there. That's
plenty.
Good. Yep. Well, Shanna, it is Rapid Fire Friday. You want to get to a call here?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We got Eddie calling from Tennessee. Eddie, good morning. You're live on Financial Issues.
All right. Hello, Shanna and Seth.
Hey, brother.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just realized yesterday that this month I turned 70 and a half. So guess what I want to do?
You want to do a charitable contribution.
You got it. And I have three quick questions for you.
Okay.
First of all, how do I set it up with the ability to write a check? Is there a max that can be pulled out per year? And can it go towards my RMD in a couple of years?
Great questions. So the way that you set it up is you'll just contact the brokerage firm that holds your IRA account, and you'll just ask them to set you up with some checks. Make sure that you ask them questions about how they handle taxes on that. If you can, if you have like a monthly distribution and maybe you have, 10% or 15% held out, do they apply that to your gifts as well? If they do, you may want to ask them, not to do that, or I don't know, maybe you do, depending on what your tax situation looks like. But they will typically just issue you a checkbook, and then you can write checks directly from your IRA account. Now, you're going to want to make sure that before you write the check that you have the cash to cover it. If you have to sell some things to generate that cash, I want to make sure that the cash is available before you send that check over. Then I would say that a lot of times when you send the check, unless your name is on the check somewhere, the organization that you're sending it to won't know that it came from you. So you can put a memo in there if you want to, if you want them to know that it's from you. If you use the standard deduction, though, on your taxes, there's a way that you need to report this to make sure that it comes out tax-free. It's very easy. You'll typically get a letter, or maybe you can use your canceled check. If you get a copy of that canceled check from your IRA account as proof that the money went to a nonprofit organization, because you have to report that on your tax return. If you use a 1040, it's around line 4A or 4B. Your 1099 that you get will report all of the income that is distributed from your IRA account, whether it goes to you or to somebody else or to a nonprofit organization. You have to make that distinction on your tax return. You have to tell them how much of it was not taxable. If the organization doesn't know that it came from you, you probably won't get a giving statement at the end of the year, but that's okay because if you're not itemizing, you can't use that for your deductions anyway. The max on that, you can do $100,000 in a year. So for most people, the maximum is not going to come into play unless you have a really large IRA and you want to do some major giving. And then as far as the required minimum distribution question, you don't have one this year, but you will in short order. Your required minimum distribution is calculated every year based on the December 31st value of your IRA account for the previous year and your life expectancy. So when you do have that required minimum distribution, you typically will be notified by your brokerage company how much you have to take out for the year, and it will count toward that. So the way that the IRS knows that you're taking the amount of money that you're supposed to, a $5,500 $5498 is issued every year on your IRA. It reports the holdings and the value to the IRS, and then your 1099 is going to report all of your distributions to the IRS. So as long as those numbers match, you're in good order. If you take out less than what you have to, the IRS is going to impose a 50% penalty on what you should have taken but didn't.
Okay. Well, that answers my question. Great.
Well, happy 70 and a half birthday.
Yeah, way to go, Eddie.
Been a long time getting here.
Well, good stuff. It's a great way to do your giving. Once you reach that age, it really helps you be efficient and be a good steward, not pay more taxes to the federal government than you need to. And I don't know, maybe one of your charitable distributions are going to go to preborn. But if it does in this month of May, you are going to be able to leverage that gift because there's a generous donor that for every $5,600 that we raise for preborn ministries, they're going to buy one ultrasound machine and they're going to make a matching gift to financial issues. So that's a great way to more than double your giving in the month of May.
Amen.
Well, folks, I think we've got Craig Haugaard on deck. He's going to tell us what's happening in the agricultural and commodity markets. After we hear from Craig, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with the home stretch of Rapid Fire Friday here at Financial Issues. If you've got a question, you'll be the next caller, 610-363-1110. Well, here comes Craig, short break, and then more financial issues. I think, or did I miss my cue? Nope, there it is.
This is Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag update for May 17th. Well, corn remains a weather market. Traders seem focused on the drought monitor, which shows only 12% of corn in growing areas experiencing any drought, and that's the lowest number we've seen since July of 2020. On the other hand, above normal rainfall is likely throughout a wide portion of the Corn Belt over the next 7 to 10 days. With less than ideal emergence, crusting, and other agronomic issues due to planting in non-ideal conditions, we're going to have a very nervous corn market for the next month or two. Yesterday had the July corn futures 5.5 cents lower at $4.57 per bushel. Soybeans had a mixed session with the front months higher and the deferred months lower. Old crop beans were supported by the thought that as flooding in Rio Grande do Sul continues to wreak havoc on logistics in Brazil, we could see spot soybean business shifting from the U.S. despite Brazil remaining at a discount to U.S. Gulf prices. At the close, July beans were 2 3/4 cents higher at $12.16 1/4. Wheat suffered through its third day of liquidation. The Winter Wheat Crop Tour participants projected that the 2024 Kansas wheat production is going to come in at 290.4 million bushels, and that's above the 267.9 million that the USDA projected in this month's crop report. We also had weekly export sales that were disappointing at 2.9 million bushels. That all added up to put pressure on the wheat market. At the close, Minneapolis July wheat was 6 1/4 cents lower at $7.20 3/4. Kansas City dropped by 1 3/4 to close at $6.73 1/4, and we had Chicago 2.5 cents lower at $6.63 1/4. Cotton futures enjoyed a bit of a bounce. On the close, July futures were up 83 points at 77.24. And livestock futures all surged higher as well. August live cattle were 85 cents higher at $177.37 per hundredweight. August feeder cattle rose by $1.47, settling at $257.35 75 cents per hundred. And August lean hog futures were 77.5 cents higher at $100.80 per hundredweight. Class 3 milk futures shook off the past couple of days and took another shot to the upside. At the close, June futures were up 27 points at 21.12. Well, this has been Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
The miracle of carrying a child creates a unique bond between a mother and her unborn baby. She feels the baby's movements and responds to their needs even before birth. Help create that bond between an abortion-minded mother and her unborn child by giving the gift of life through Preborn. During the month of May, you can bless your mom for Mother's Day by giving to Preborn on your mother's behalf. For $28, you can sponsor an ultrasound scan that will enable an abortion-minded woman to hear the heartbeat of her baby. 90% of the time, that sound will change a woman's mind and cause her to keep their baby. Give the gift of life to the woman that gave you life by sponsoring an ultrasound. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give. That's preborn.com/FISM. You can help an abortion-minded mother receive discipleship, encouragement, and the strength needed to have her baby.
When it comes to money, I always have so many questions. I never know where to go to get answers to those questions. They never really teach you this stuff in school, like some of the best ways to handle it, how to save, when to invest, where to invest, even just what to do with the money. And if I put it in the stock market, what's the best way to protect from losing it all? That fear can be paralyzing. You don't really know what decisions to make. As a Christian, I don't want to give my money to people who are going to use it for things that God hates. When I discovered Financial Issues, it was like a burden was lifted off my shoulders. Not only did I gain access to a simple investment strategy that I can manage myself, I also have the peace of mind that my money will not be going to companies that actively promote things that God hates. Financial Issues has allowed me to experience peace in my investments.
Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. It's Rapid Fire Friday. If you want to be the first caller in the queue, or the next caller in the queue, I'll say 610-363-1110. So you've got about 2 minutes to get your call queued up if you want to make sure to get in on today's show. Otherwise, you'll have to wait till next week. So Seth, you have an update on the Preborn
I do,
campaign.
Shannon.
Right?
Yep. So, folks, if you were listening to the show yesterday, we had mentioned to you that we had underwritten over 31 ultrasound machines. Preborn had miscalculated that amount there. We're not quite at that point. We're at just over 25 ultrasound machines. So we're still doing great. Yesterday was a great day, but we're not quite as far as we thought we were. We got that updated information this morning. So now's the time to give. Just a reminder, every time we hit $5,600, a $15,000 to $20,000 ultrasound machine will be underwritten by a generous anonymous donor who is also giving a massive financial gift to Financial Issues at the end of all this. However much money we raise for Preborn will be given back to us at the ministry. So if you love Financial Issues, now's a great time to give to Preborn. Shanna.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, financialissues.org, and click the Preborn banner. That takes you right to the page where you can give, and it's automatically, it knows that you are giving through the Financial Issues campaign.
Yep. And if you're going to do what Eddie's doing, Eddie called a little while ago, and he's sending, or he may be sending a donation from his IRA account as a qualified charitable distribution. Make sure that you make a note, either put a note in with the check or on the memo line, denoting that it is part of the FISM campaign, so that they will qualify that contribution for the match. And if you're giving appreciated stock, send a note to Pat at financialissues.org.
Financial Issues, yep. Mm-hmm.
And just let her know that you're sending that over. That way she can let the folks at Preborn know that it was a result of our campaign and we qualify for the match.
Awesome.
Let's Let's get to the call. We've got Dan calling from Ohio. Hi, Dan. You're on Financial Issues.
Good morning, Shanna.
Good morning.
I got a question. I'm in the investment 65 into retirement, and I would like to possibly change to the income only. And if I switch that, and then I decide I want to go back into the investment 65 into retirement, do I have to re-enter everything?
You don't have to re-enter everything, but when you change, and there should be a note there at the top of the tracker that whenever you change the model that you're in, you're going to lose the sector data in your tracker. So you're going to want to take a screenshot maybe of the tracker data before you switch it over. Your cost basis, your symbols, your amount, your number of shares, all of that should hold. It's just the sector data that you lose switching from one to the other.
Can I do a screenshot from a computer?
You should be able to. I'm not a technology expert here, but you can probably like right click on it and either print it out physically or save it to a PDF or something like that.
Dan, do you have a Mac or do you have a Microsoft PC?
Microsoft.
Okay. So if you're on Microsoft, I think the best thing to do is go down to the search bar and just type in screenshot, and it'll show you how to take a screenshot on it. Yep.
All righty.
Yep.
Yeah, because if I do print, it misses a lot of stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah.
You can also just do the low tech way and take a picture of your screen with your phone.
All righty, I can do that.
All right, great question. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Dan.
Just the other thing, I ordered checks. I'm 70 and a half too, and I appreciate that information that you gave earlier.
Absolutely.
Good.
We're so glad that we were able to help you in that way.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Have a great
Dan.
weekend.
God bless.
Let's jump into that stewardship verse today from Galatians 6 and 7. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. What do you think?
Heavy stuff there, Shanna. I mean, this is a verse that talks about in the positive sense, but it's really the emphasis here is the negative sense that God should not be mocked. And so if we sow a mocking attitude of God, profaning his word, disobeying him, we're going to reap the curses that come from that. Absolutely. And this law of reaping and sowing is so important for us, especially for our investing. God will not be mocked. And we talked about Target earlier. They have openly profaned the name of God by celebrating this godless agenda. And he's not going to forget that. And I'm not saying that to try to scare people. That's a biblical reality that's true there. If we obey God, on the other hand, he's going to remember that obedience and bless us. It's radically simple, Shanna. Just live in obedience.
Amen.
Yep.
God created everything. Everyone's going to find that out to be true at some point in their lives, either here on earth or in eternity. I pray that it's here instead of eternity. But God created everything, and he set some universal laws in place. So just as valid as the law of gravity is, so is the law of reciprocity. That's quite simply reaping and sowing. You don't plant an orange seed and wait to see what's going to pop up when it comes out of the ground. You know what kind of fruit that you're going to get. And because God made human beings and he made us in his image, he decided whether we're male or female. It's quite simple. You just follow the science. If you have an X and a Y chromosome, you're a man. And if you have two X chromosomes, then you're a female. And, when we promote the LGBTQ agenda, when we say that what God says is true is not true, we are mocking God, and we don't want to be found in that camp. It will not be a good day. Just like it wasn't a good day for the folks in Sodom and Gomorrah, it won't be a good day for those of us who reject God when that day comes.
Well said, Shanna. Hey, we got a good question here on the actually on Facebook. Cheryl was asking, what portfolio allocation do you recommend, Shanna, for people at retirement?
Well, it depends on how much at retirement you are. So I'll just look at it from, I guess, three different viewpoints. If you're at retirement, meaning that you're going to be retiring in the next year or two, then you probably want to use or you probably want to be transitioning from that 55 to 65 portfolio into the 65 plus portfolio. So if you just started retirement in your first few years, with inflation running as high as it has been, you're going to need to have some growth in that portfolio for your income and your future income to be able to keep up. So we kind of label them as age weighted. So we assume that retirement will be at age 65. So if you're just entering into retirement, you're 65, or even if you're not 65, then you can follow that 65 to 75 model. If you've been in retirement for, more than 5 years, maybe, 8 to 10 years, then you may want to start transitioning into that 75 plus portfolio.
It's good, Shana. Speaking of the models, Vicky has a question over here on Ask Shana about the TSP model, actually. She's a Fed employee contributing to it. When I look at your allocation model for TSP, should the percentage guidelines be my contribution mix or percentage in each fund balance? Her estimated date of retiring is almost a year from now, April of 2025. What do you think? She's 63.
It should be both. That's a great rapid fire Friday question. So the easiest way to prevent too much work on your end is to set the allocations to what we have in the asset allocation model and set up your contributions the same way. And then, 2 or 3 times a year, you can rebalance your holdings according to the asset allocation model.
Nice. How about Keith here, Shana, saying I got $26,000 in cash in my IRA. Is there a certain stock or stocks that I should buy? I was wondering if I should buy some new stock or just leave it as is. I'm not going to retire till 70. At least that's my plan. God could have a different plan, of course. And then he's got about $25,000 in some other stocks that he lists there. What would be the best to do as of now with the $26,000? He's also 63.
Yeah. So the best place to start is to get all of that information put in on your portfolio tracker. As a partner, you should have access to that. So you put your cash in that first line and code it to cash, and then you put your other stocks in. And then when you hit the output button, you're going to get a couple of charts, and you're going to get one bar chart that's going to show you the recommended asset allocation for the model that you have selected, and it's going to show you where you are. So in a quick minute, you'll be able to look at that chart and you'll be able to see where you need to focus your efforts. As far as the timing on that, I would give yourself, the next, I would say 3-4 months to get that money fully allocated. That's going to help you take advantage of any volatility that we see in the markets in the next 3 months. And it's just going to give you, it's going to take your emotions out of it, because whenever you set your plan and you say, okay, for the next 3 months, I'm going to get 1/3 of this money invested every day. If you're doing it on the 15th of the month, you're going to do it now. You're going to do it on the 15th of next month and the 15th of the following month. You're not going to let your emotions sway you one way or the other or cause you to deviate from your plan, and then you'll be fully allocated.
Awesome. Shana, I'd love to squeeze this last one in here from Janie. I don't know if we have time for it, though, today, but probably a good reminder here to remind folks to sign that petition for AMD, as it's going to be running out in about 12 hours or so, maybe a little more.
So make sure you hop on over to financialissues.org, sign that petition. You don't have to be a partner to do it. You don't have to be an owner of the company to actually do it. It does say that you could be a potential investor. So, we won't be a potential investor as long as that company is continuing to do the kind of activities that they're doing, deploying money from the shareholders who are owners of the company into the kingdom of darkness. So hop on over, sign that petition, make your voice heard. Well, folks, we got to go today. We hope that you have a wonderful day of worship on Sunday, that you gather together with the body of believers in your local community. And we will see you next week on Financial Issues. Make sure you tune in Monday. We're going to have Brian Mumbert with the Timothy Plan on talking about what they do over there and how biblically responsible investing is such a great thing, a great way to honor God. Well, folks, remember, everything that we have belongs to the Lord. Come back next week. Lord willing, we will be here to remind you that time's getting short, the Master's coming back, and there's going to be a
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.